Hello, my name is Brian Powers, and I'm an interviewer for the Veterans History Project. And today is October 25th, 2013. And today we're speaking with a World War II veteran, Alfred John
Titus.
Titus Sr., who goes by Pete. So, Mr. Titus, thank you very much for uh, taking the time to talk to us today about your time in World War II. We always like to start out with our interview by asking you, where were you born?
I was born right here in Cincinnati, on the east side of Cincinnati, in a suburb called Madisonville, known as to most of the people back then when I was born as Mudville,
How did it get that name?
because it was so far out of on the outer parts of Cincinnati, and there was hills behind us, all behind us. So,
So you grew up in, you were born in 1916.
1916,
So when in Madisonville, you're growing up in the 20s in Madisonville.
1960, I grew up in Madisonville.
And so what was Madisonville? What were some of the things you would do around the neighborhood? What was the neighborhood like? Can you have some memories of what Madisonville was in your childhood?
Well, when I was a kid, there weren't that many cars and we had dirt roads, and we used to go out there and make us shoot marbles in the middle of the street. One of the things my mother told me when I was about 3 years old, there was a what they call streetcar used to run down the street behind it, below us, and I was, like I say, young, and the streetcar conductor got up to one of the streets, and I was sitting in the middle of the track. I didn't. I was young, and he recognized me, and he knew me. So he told my mother. She said, "You better take care of this youngster. He's sitting in the middle of the track." And luckily, I had my mind on my job, or you wouldn't have had any children.
So did your parents, did they have other kids? Were you the
I had
only
I
child?
had an older brother, 5 years older than me.
But obviously not around to look after you, make sure you weren't on playing on the tracks.
Say that again.
I guess old enough for him not to want to be around you to keep
Right? Yeah,
keep track of where you
right.
were.
He had other places to play. He didn't play with they didn't play with younger kids. They said we didn't have any sense.
Now, what did your parents do for a living? What did your father do?
My mother was she stayed at home. She took care of the house and everything. My father was a barber. He had his own barber shop. Well, and plus he had two brothers, and there was another barber shop. So he was he worked in both shops, barber shops, and they were the only barber shops in Madisonville at the time, and they did a very good business.
What was what was the name of the barber shop?
Titus Brothers, Titus Brothers Barber Shop, and I was 9 years old when my father put me in the shop and told me to help customers with the coats on and off. Had a whisk broom, brush them off. Also shine shoes. Shoes was 10 cents 10 cents a pair, and I made good money. And this was during the Depression. I made good money during the Depression as a youngster, 9 or 10 years old.
Yeah.
Brace the customer off with my whisk broom, and he'd give me a nickel, and they made a hustler out of me.
In Madisonville, it's mostly, I know it's African American now, but how much was it African American in that time in the 20s and 30s? Was it mostly still?
On the north side of Madison Road, that was the main drag, Madison Road. On the north side of Madison Road, they were mostly blacks. On the south side of Madison Road, it was predominantly white when I was living out there. But now it's mixed up more. There's more of a mixture now.
Yeah. Well, this is a side note. You know, my girlfriend's grandfather lived in Madisonville.
Is that right?
His name was Kelch. He eventually opened.
Couch.
Yeah, they eventually opened a funeral home
Yeah, in Oakley.
In Oakley, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Did you happen to know him?
No, I knew of him.
Knew the name, I
He
guess.
probably came in the barbershop, and I probably didn't know who he was.
So you would have not only African American customers, you would have white customers.
No black customers.
Oh, really?
All white.
Oh.
There was my cousin. He had a barbershop, and it was for blacks.
Was that also in Madisonville?
Also in Madisonville, yeah.
So your dad had mostly white customers, but your dad's
Yeah.
cousin.
You might as well say all white.
Uh-huh.
My father's it was 2 barbershops, and well, the people that lived around there, they knew what was what, you know. They knew if they were black, they wouldn't go to my wife's white barbershop. They didn't even try to, you know, because they had a barbershop for them.
Yeah.
And I had a cousin. He was the owner of a barbershop.
So, what school did you go to when you were growing up?
I went to school in Madisonville, grade school, and went to high school at Withrow High School up on Madison Road. It was north of Oakley,
And
west of Oakley.
right, and that's not walking distance, is it? It's
No, well,
how did you get
sometimes I had to walk. I mean, it was only about 6 or 7 miles, but if I didn't have car fare or didn't get a ride, I had to walk. And school started at 8:15 or 8:20, I forget what it was. And I used 6 o'clock. I'd be down on the main drag trying to get to school with my thumb, you know. And by 7 o'clock, if I didn't get a ride, I had to start walking.
How long would that take a while? About an hour or something? Or?
About an hour and 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I would trot. It was good training because I stayed in the track on a track team, you know. Used to run on the track team, so. But got used to it, you know.
Were there other activities you did in high school other than track?
Played baseball. Yeah. But no football. Too rough for me. But about the baseball thing, I also played baseball when I was younger, 15, 16 years old, on weekends, and I got money for it.
Really?
Yeah.
Where was that?
I played baseball with fellas older than me. I'd be 15 or 16, they'd be 25 or 30. And I played with them because I was as good or better than they were. The manager of a white baseball team told his team, don't hit the ball out there where Pete is, because they know if I could see it, I'd catch it. That's the God's truth, swear it.
So how were you doing that on the weekends when you would?
Weekends, in the evenings and weekends. Weekends I would get a little money, like go out of town and get $5 or $6 and all we could eat, and that paid off. And somebody in high school told the athletic director, I forget what I was doing and was getting paid, and they redshirted me, wouldn't let me participate in no activities.
Wow.
Because I was getting paid.
Did you were you still working at the barbershop when you were a teenager? Were you still
I worked
doing
at the
that?
barbershop too, yeah.
So you were keeping busy all the time.
Shine shoes, anything. And on Sundays, I'd go to the barbershop and put my shoe shine stand out front of the barbershop and shine shoes on Sunday morning, yeah. And I had a lot of customers. They'd be lined up sometime, going to church, or coming from church.
Yeah.
10 cents a shine. And I had some customers give you a quarter. I couldn't believe it.
So, what were you spending your money on, or were you saving it?
Well, that was during the Depression. And my father, as a barber, he wasn't making much money. And what money I made, I helped my mother and father pay the bills and buy the food. So, I didn't waste my money on anything. They needed help, so I did all I could to give it to. I would get a job. My brother was older than me, 5 years older than me. I would get a job, and my mother and father would make me give the job to him. I could always get a job because people around there, they knew I would work, That's the God's truth.
Did your dad own his house, or were you renting the house?
They owned the house. Yeah, it's still out there on Chandler Street.
How many did you have? Was it a 2-bedroom house or a 3-bedroom house?
2-bedroom.
Yeah.
2 bedrooms.
So
yeah.
you and your brother had to double up.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he was much bigger than me, and he was dreaming one night. We had the headboard was wood, and he was, what do you call it, a nightmare or something.
Right.
And I was trying to hold him because he was getting kind of rough, and he swung at me, and I ducked it. And he tore that backboard up with his fist. But I got him one time, though. He used to grab me, put me down on the bed, and put a pillow over my face, just playing with me, and I'd be fighting. So I fixed him one day. He was doing that, and I came around with this right and hit him in the nose. Boy, he had blood everywhere. But I wouldn't bother with him no more for doing me like that.
Yeah, well, that's what you got to do sometimes.
That's right, yeah.
So, what year did you graduate with Roe?
1934, I think it was. 34, 35. 1935.
So, did you know what you wanted to do when you finished with school?
Yeah. Automobiles was a big thing back then. And I wanted to get in some place where I could work on automobiles.
So, were you already doing some of that, like messing around with cars already?
Yeah, I was messing around with cars. I used to do all my work. And till they put me out of business with all these machines. They got electronic machines.
But at that time, though, when you were in high school, were you having access to a car that you could figure out how they work?
Yeah, I bought my first car when I was in high school, and I had a 32 Ford. Yeah, 32 Ford. And so I had my own car. I bought it when I was 16 or 17.
Right.
My father. My father couldn't drive, and he had a car and couldn't drive. But every time they wanted to go somewhere, I had to drive.
You were the driver.
Yeah, and I was teaching my mother how to drive. We was coming down this hill behind us one day, and she ran up on the bank, and she said, "Son, I can't do this no more. Can't do this no more." And she wouldn't drive, and he wouldn't drive. So finally, I had to get rid of the car because they didn't need one.
So did you get a job working with cars after you got out of high school?
No, I got a job working in a packing house. I went to the Reds baseball game. Me and my cousin, we thumbed a weight ride down from Madisonville to where the Reds play. And we passed by this meat packing house, Mars Meat Packing Company. And he said, let's put in our application. This is on a Saturday. He said, let's put in our application. Maybe we get a job here. I said, oh man, they ain't hiring nobody. They letting people go. He said, come on, let's sign the thing. Let's sign the thing. Quit arguing. So I signed it. He signed it. We went to the ball game. This is Saturday afternoon. Monday morning at 9 o'clock, my uncle woke me up. He's the only one where we had the telephone, because we didn't have phone in the house. They called the barber shop where my uncle came up and woke me up. It was 9 o'clock. He said, Pete, he called me Pete too. He said, Pete, H.H. Myers called. They want you to come to work. I said, what? He said they want you to come to work tomorrow. Well, I knew two guys that worked there, so I got in touch with both of them. And they said I could ride down with them. It was early in the morning too, about 5:30 in the morning. I said, good Lord, it's too early to be getting up. And my mother, bless her heart, she would get up and cook my breakfast that early. And I started working for H.H. Myers.
Your shift started at 5? What time did you have to be in the work?
It started at 6.
Oh,
Yes, it started at 6. But three of us, we used to start around 5. They wanted us to start at 5 and do little odd jobs, like putting carts and things around for the people that worked there, you know. They let us do that to make some extra money. So we would go in about an hour early, and that's what I had to do. I tried, and they hired me because I could play baseball. They were getting up a baseball team.
That was part of your interview?
Yeah, that was on my application. Something about, I don't know, the owner's nephew. He loved baseball, and he was getting up a baseball team. And he saw my application where I played baseball. And I'm surprised that early, because they closed Saturday and Sunday. They called me up Monday morning, come to work. This is part of the Depression, 1934.
Yeah.
And this is God's truth. I tried to quit 3 times. They wouldn't let me quit. Swear.
You wanted to quit because of the job?
Because they give me a job I didn't like. I tell the boss, I don't like it. I can't be doing this. I got to go home. No. We'll find you something else to do. They give me something else to do. And one of the jobs they gave me to do was they had this chute where they dumped all their waste basket, where the papers and things. Cubby hole it was, about big as a walk-in closet. I got down to the last armload of papers. Man, a rat jumped out there big as me. Y'all seen me going up that ladder, getting out of there. And that's one of the times I was going to quit. He said, no. He said, we can get you another job. So they put me up on the work floor, and I liked it up there because I could talk to people, or get around.
Less rats.
Yeah.
Were you in like the Mill Valley area? I guess. Were you kind of like Spring Grove? Where was the plant at?
It was where could I say Freeman Avenue and the Parkway. That sound right?
Kind of over where the baseball stadium was. The Red Sox baseball stadium was over that.
Yeah, it was within walking distance of the Reds.
I know they had a lot of those kind of like meat packing places.
Yeah,
because
we'd get off early, like 1 o'clock, and one of the things I did, I'd get dressed and shower and dress. I go down to the Reds baseball game and sit in the bleachers. I think it was 50 cents or 55 cents. I go down there and it's a baseball game. I love baseball. I spend my last penny to see them play. Well,
Well, when would you get out of work? You would go in there that pretty early.
oh, Lord. Well, 3 of us started about 5 o'clock. The rest of them would start at 6. And we worked, instead of stopping for lunch, we worked straight through, say from 6 to 1 or 6 to 12:30, something like that. And the guys or women too that worked there, they'd tell the foreman, don't stop for lunch, don't stop, let's finish up so we can go home, you know. And they let us work straight through. Whereas if we stayed there, we wouldn't have gotten out of there till 3:30 or 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
They let us work straight through. And I hurry up and get dressed and be down to the ballpark, sit out in the bleachers. I bought the bleachers.
Were you still working down there in about 37? How long did you work?
I was there in 37. Stayed there till 40, 41 or 2.
You were there until probably, when the war started, I guess.
Yeah, and my Wright's opened up. Do you remember Wright's? Wright's Aeronautical. It's over there in Evendale.
Sure.
And I thought I could go over there, and they wouldn't be calling me and drafting me in the war. I got food. Man, I had one of the best jobs you ever want to have. And I got this letter, invitation. It was to serve my country.
Well, we're going to talk about it in a second, but before we get into when you got into the military, I wanted to ask you about the 1937 flood, because that was...
Oh, man.
Were you... I don't know if Madisonville was affected at all, but I'm
No.
sure down there where that plant was.
The plant had to close because the water was way down there. Water was in Crosley Field. The water was almost over the center field wall in Crosley, down in Crosley Field. You ever go to Crosley Field?
No, it was torn down before I moved.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen pictures of it.
It covered the baseball field altogether. Oh, that was terrible. And that flood would run the rabbits, the rabbits, the rats. Rats they would come up into the packing house, 3rd floor. 3 of us, they used to let 3 of us come down there and go and work, because we did do a little work. We didn't kill hogs or nothing like that, but we did pack meat, and they would let 3 of us come down and work. We didn't do nothing but play around. For one of the things we did up in the where they used to have the hogs would hang. I can't think of the name of the place now. Rats would be up there, and we would find a hole where they would run in and out of, and one of them would come out and get out in the floor, and we wore boots, and one of us would stand in front of the hole and stop the hole up. And the other 2 guys would chase this rat around, and he'd run to his hole. We couldn't get in there. We were crazy. We would stomp them too, Lord. We wasn't afraid of no rats. Well, she knows that. She woke me up one morning about 2 o'clock. There was a rat in her room when I was going with her. 2 o'clock. What, about 2 o'clock in the morning, Jackie? I got out there about 6 o'clock, and they were still she and her daughter were still standing up on top of the dresser drawer because. And me and another fellow, we got the rats. We killed him. He was still around too. He walked behind this dresser drawer, and we just pushed it. Called him, mashed him.
So during the flood, the bottom floors were flooded?
Yeah.
But you were still going into work?
Oh, yeah.
How would you get in there? Was there a boat that would take you into the building?
No, it wasn't. The streets wasn't flooded where we were, Freeman Avenue, but well, water would back up in the sewers, stuff like that. But the streets that way down there wasn't flooded way down there. Downtown was flooded around 3rd and 4th Street. I think it was between 3rd and 4th where the water was.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was something else.
Was Madisonville affected at all?
I don't think so. I didn't live out there then. Were you affected, Jackie, where you lived in Oakley?
I wasn't born in 37.
That's right. She was born in 37. That's right.
Well,
I was born.
where were you living? You moved out of Madisonville after high school?
I was living in Walnut Hills.
Okay.
Yeah. I lived in Walnut Hills.
So, before we move on to the 40s, but you were playing baseball for the meatpacking company?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So where were you playing at? Who were you playing against?
We played against some of the packing houses. They had teams, and teams from. We even went to over in Indiana, played a team over there. But most of the teams we played were around there, and they drafted or got a one baseball player out of prison just to play ball. And of course, the owner of the packing house, he was a powerful dude. I don't know how they got him out of the prison, but they got him out to pitch. Yeah, so I was practicing with him one day, and they had us practicing with him, and guys got up there, man. That dude can throw that ball, man. We can't do nothing with it. I said, get out of the way. First pitch he threw, man, I almost tore the third baseman up. Pow! The guy wanted to know where'd he come from,
What position were you playing on the team?
I played left field, but if I had to, I would play second base or first. Wouldn't third and short wasn't I didn't have a good enough arm to be playing at third base and shortstop, but I did play second and first base. But
so it was all employees on the team.
Yeah,
Other than
some of them, they were all employees. Not all of them. Some of them were outsiders. Yeah.
was it like integrated, or was it like mostly white?
Actually, it wasn't integrated. It was either black or white. So they got this pitcher. He was on the white team, but we used to practice against each other. You heard of the back then they had professional black teams.
Yeah.
We used to practice with them.
Like the Negro Leagues.
Mm-hmm. Used to practice with them. And Satchel Paige.
Right.
And Cool Papa Bell, and they used to come to Cincinnati. What would happen? They would play at Crosley Field on Sunday, and there'd be a big crowd there. And they would get there on a Saturday, but they couldn't practice. Now to get this, they wouldn't let them practice and crawl on Crosley Field on Saturday, even though they were going to play ball on Sunday. But I don't know if you ever heard of Guest Street was close by. Beautiful diamond, and if it rained in the morning, it would be just as dry as a bone in the afternoon. It was kind of sandy soil and great block, big as a great big block, nothing but baseball diamond. And we could play ball down there on Sunday, but the Reds couldn't play when it rained. But the Reds couldn't play because of the rain. But after it rained, they couldn't play, but we could play. And we were only two blocks from Crossley Field. But it was just so the baseball diamond would absorb all that water. Guest Street, if you ever get around, anybody been around here, Guest Street, that's a place to play ball.
So let me understand, like the team that you were playing with for the meatpacking,
Yeah.
they were all African American?
No.
Okay.
No. There was white. They had, like I said, they had a white team and a black team.
Well, that's why I'm confused. Like,
Oh.
what is it? Were you on a white team? You were one
No,
of the guys?
there was two different teams.
For the company?
Yeah, for the companies, two different teams. Yeah, there was a black team and a white team.
Okay.
Yeah, like this guy they got out of prison. He was white. They got him out to pitch for the white team.
So who were you playing against? Other black teams from other companies?
Yeah, all the meat packing companies had cons, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
All of them had baseball teams. We had bowling. We bowled against each other. You know, we did a lot of things against each other. The packing houses did.
How many packing houses were there?
Oh, must have at least 4.
Yeah.
H.H. Myers, Cons. Oh, there was 2 more. I can't think of the names. Bowling teams. You ever bowl?
Mm-hmm.
And they have teams. We used to have packing houses. We used to have bowling teams. The company, the owner of the team where I worked, owner, he used to give us a free YMCA membership every year. We could do whatever we wanted to at the YMCA. It wouldn't cost us nothing. Mm-hmm. He would let us have if we had up in Milford. You know where Milford is?
Yep.
There's a camp up there, and along the river. And we used to go up there, and they had picnics up there, and they would furnish all the meat and everything for us on a Saturday picnic. It was nice living during those days. I mean, even though it was tough during the flood and the depression. Yeah.
So, where were you? Is one of the questions that we ask of everybody. Is where were you, or do you remember when Pearl Harbor got attacked? You remember hearing that news?
Oh yeah, I remember hearing that. My brother 5 years older than me. He was in the military. They let him out about 6 months before the Pearl Harbor incident. And he was listening to it on the radio, and he said, "Oh my goodness," he said, "look like I'm gonna have to go back in." And sure enough, he was right. He got a letter to come back in. He was in the military about a year before that, for Pearl Harbor. Yeah, I didn't even know anything about Pearl Harbor. They bombing Pearl Harbor. What is that? I found out where Pearl Harbor is. That's a beautiful place over there. You ever been to Hawaii?
Yeah, but I was very young.
You didn't like it then, did you?
Well, I don't remember. I was
Right.
older. My dad was in the Navy. We ended up going to Japan for a while.
Yeah. Well, how about that? It's beautiful over there.
Yeah. So, the war breaks out. Do you think you were going to be getting drafted soon?
I didn't think I was going to get drafted. I had been married 6 years. Told the wife, but like I said, I moved into this new neighborhood, and it wasn't a big neighborhood, and
That was O'Brienville?
O'Briensville.
So you were living in Walnut Hills before, then you moved to O'Brienville?
Yeah, had an apartment in O'Briensville. We just starting out. I had one bedroom in Walnut Hills, and we could use the kitchen. Then my wife got this place in O'Briensville with a 1 bedroom upstairs and living room, and we shared the bathroom with the people downstairs, and that's about it.
But that's what you think. What got you drafted is changing your neighborhood.
Right.
Hello,
Yeah, they got me,
you got her.
and there was 2 or 3 guys younger than me, and they were single,
Okay, I'll be there after a
and
while.
they got me before they got them.
Bye-bye.
That's what I couldn't understand.
Now, you were talking earlier about Wright.
Wright's Aeronautical.
Is that where you were working at the time?
I was working a beautiful job. When I went out there to get my last check, I cried all the way home.
What was your job?
Anything I wanted to do. I didn't do nothing. I had a good job. Go in there, worked at night, and the guy across the river, he was a boss. Oh, I can't think of his name now. And we used to have a good time at night. And when we got through doing what we had to do, I ran this pickup thing. I can't think of the name of it. Pick up parts here and take it to another place and pick up part and take it to someplace. And in between that time, we would distribute towels around to each department. And when that was finished, we just had a good time, you know. But they got me. That's the truth. I cried. Couldn't
And
believe
you
it.
were how old at that point when you got that letter?
26, I think.
But they just get to that point and decided to draft some of the guys that were older at that point?
Say what now?
I guess they were decided to start drafting some people that were older, not just out of high school.
Yeah, it looks like it. Because some guys there much younger than me, they didn't, and single, they didn't get them till later. And I had been married for 6 years when they got me.
And where did you have to report to? When you got the letter, where did you have to go?
It was
Fort Thomas? Or
no, well, yeah, I did go to Fort Thomas. Yeah, that's where it went, to Fort Thomas. I'm thinking about the draft board. Yeah, Fort Thomas. I had to go to Fort Thomas, and I don't remember too much about Fort Thomas. And they shipped us out of Fort Thomas caught this train, and my mother and my wife, they cried when they put me on the train. And my mother, I don't know if you've ever had country ham or not. I mean real country ham from Kentucky. Mm-hmm. It's something else. And my mother had this country ham sandwich. She said, "Here, now take this. You're going to get hungry after a while, son. You'll be on the train. You don't know how far you're going, nothing." Mom, I don't want to do that. She forced me to take this ham sandwich. She was right. Man, after about 6 hours on this train, we headed west. Don't know where we going. I got hungry, and I opened up the bag and unwrapped that sandwich. Man, you could smell it from here to... I ain't kidding. The country ham was smelling good. And guys, some of them must have been asleep or something. They were, "What's that smell? They gonna feed us?" They found out I had this ham sandwich. And I said, "Look, guys, I can't give y'all none of this. I'm sorry. And don't be trying to take it away from me, because you'll be at war now before you, instead of when you get down there where we're going."
How long were you on the train before you got somewhere?
Oh, about 10 hours. Yeah. We didn't know where we were going. Went to Texas. We went to Texas. And got off and didn't know where we were. They talking about Fort Worth, Texas. Fort Worth, Texas. What part of Texas is that in? And we went into this big camp. They put us on a bus. got off the train and got on the bus, and we went to Camp Walters. I understand they start calling it Fort Walters now, but then the last I heard, they said they had closed. It was a big camp. There was one black outfit, and the rest of the camp were all white. And one of my jobs, we would get sharp. We all white boots, shoes, and helmets, Tommy gun, go down to Fort Worth, a convoy. We would circle a whole block. There'd be soldiers with Tommy guns all around, getting the payroll for this camp.
Yeah.
They didn't. It was millions and millions of dollars. They never tell us how much, but it was well guarded. And if one of the citizens would stop and ask to talk to us, we'd tell them, "Move on now, move on, move on. We don't want to get you hurt. Move on. Don't stop." And some of them got scared because they didn't know what was going on, you know. Yeah, pick up the payroll, and we had to guard that payroll for 3 days after we got back to the camp.
How long were you at that base, that fort?
I was there till 1940, from 42 to parts of 40, December 43, when they shipped us up to Kentucky, December 43.
I think, was it earlier, before we started interviewing, I think you said, were you training people down in Texas?
We always all the soldiers come in there for basic training. I helped train them. Yeah, they trained me there first, and when the end of the basic training period came, they shipped everybody out but me and another fellow. They kept me there to help train the incoming men. You know.
What were you training them to do?
To fight. Anything, bayonet, firing. That's what I don't understand. They had us training all these men to fight, but they didn't allow us to fight.
Because you were African American?
Yeah. I never could figure that out. Why? Spend 13 weeks training somebody to fight and tell them you can't fight.
And on that base, you said it was mostly white. I mean, were you guys had to stay at a certain part on the base, or how did that work?
Yeah, it was a certain part area, yeah. You mean where we were training?
Yeah, when you were down in Texas, I mean,
yeah,
were you certain areas you weren't allowed to go because you were African American?
We had access to the whole area, but we couldn't stay there. We could go through there, you know, but we couldn't stay there. Yeah, I forget how many soldiers were there. There was a lot of them. Woo, man.
Well, did you have anybody 26 or your age, or was everybody younger? I mean, how did that feel when you first got there and you were doing training?
Most of them were younger than me. They didn't have any. If they were too old, they didn't draft them when they were too old. They did draft some of them, but they were What, I can't think of what I want to say half the time. After you were in there and they found out how old you were and you couldn't do certain things, they would give you a discharge. Yeah, medical discharge or so. Yeah.
Do you think since you were sort of athletic that didn't happen to you?
Well, that really did, because I was athletic, really didn't have anything to do with being discharged.
No, I mean like how they kept you on. Like whether
Help me.
Your physical.
You mean it kept me there to help train?
Yeah, well, I thought maybe since you were older they kept you on the train, but I thought maybe you were saying some guys got discharged because they couldn't do things. But I thought maybe you were sort of athletic.
Yeah, they were too old, and they were can't think of what I want to say. Oh man, that's terrible. They would injure themselves when they would doing certain things, you know. Like maybe have you crawling from here to that wall over there. To get over there, they'd be all scratched up and everything, you know. They just couldn't maneuver like younger guys. And they would get them out of there. And we had one outfit. They were all from Louisiana, and almost half of them, out of about 125 men, had a gonorrhea or syphilis, something like that. Reason why I know, because I had certain days I had to take them all over to the hospital to get treated. Now, I was in charge of guys coming home, and one of the guys approached a sergeant under me, and he had gonorrhea. And this soldier came to me, he said, so-and-so said his buddy's got gonorrhea, and if he's got gonorrhea, he can't get on the ship and go back home with us. He said, can you help him out? I said, okay, send him up to me. Well, I was in charge of the whole camp. Blacks. And I told him, I said, look, you're going to be examined. Now, you come to my office when they go up there, and they check everybody out, and then when they come back, you go mingle with them, check them out to see if they had general disease. I said, now, when you get on the ship, I said, about the third day out on the ship, you go to the doctors and tell them you're sick. They're going to ask you, when did this happen? Tell them you just noticed it yesterday or something like that. Don't tell them you had it before you got on the ship. You know. I said, but once you get on that ship, they ain't going to turn around and bring you back, you know. So he was able to come home without, even though he had general disease.
So when you got that position in Texas, I mean, do you remember how that came about, that you were staying on? What did they tell you? They're like, hey, we really like what you do, and we want you to stay? Or
they were impressed with my basic training, the way I performed my duties, especially on the firing range, because I was an expert with firing range, and those medals were stolen from me on the way home. and I still haven't recovered them half a jack.
No.
I got some of my medals back, but those medals and the ones I wanted, they're gone. These guys stole it from me on the way home.
Were you back in the 40s, like you had them with you, and they were?
I was on my way home after the war ended.
Mm-hmm.
Had them on my coat. Stopped the rest stop. Everybody got off but 2 or 3 guys. And I left my jacket there. And when I got back on the bus, this is coming from Pennsylvania, got back on the bus, I didn't pay attention to it. My jacket's still on the seat next to me. And I put it on when we got to Cincinnati, got off to get on the bus. I put my jacket on, and where's my medals? Gone. To this day, I'm still trying to get my medals. I got some of them, but I didn't get the ones I wanted.
Right. Were they for like sharpshooter?
Yeah.
Things?
Expert.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I had, you had a string of these medals hanging down. Not the what do you call them?
Ribbons. Or
Not the ribbon. It's the ones that hangs down.
yeah, like the actual medal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they just didn't give them to me, put in for them.
So were you training guys to shoot rifles and all that stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Take apart their weapons? And stuff?
Right. Blindfolded.
Really?
Teach them so at night and they can't put a light on them, then they can do it, know how to do it without looking at it. They can feel the parts, know where they go, and stuff like that.
Well, I guess you were frustrated that you were training all these guys to do that, but they weren't being used to do that.
That didn't make sense. We training guys to fight, and they wouldn't allow us to fight. And the white soldiers were frustrated too because they needed help, but they wouldn't let us go fight. We were servants, put it like that. That's what we were. All we were servants.
So eventually, you did get sent overseas.
Yeah,
So where did you go first?
went to England first.
And what were you doing in England? What kind of duties were you?
Ammunition. I was at an ammunition company. We would learn what ammunition was, what it was for. Like we knew. See, our ammunition, we didn't go by like 30 caliber or this is a 155 to 140. Each one we used a code name. We didn't call what it was. Like 30 caliber bullet ammunition. We didn't call them 30 caliber. We gave a name for them.
Do you remember any of those?
A code name, yeah.
Any of them come to mind? What the code names were?
Oh, right on the tip of my tongue.
Were they like people's names or something? Or?
No, it's hard to explain.
Was it like slang, American slang or something?
It was like figures, numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, like 30 caliber would be like 61180,
Okay.
AO, something like that. You know, that wasn't what it was, but that's what we used to do. You know, we didn't call it by the name; we called it by code name.
So when you were in England, what were you doing? Were you in charge of like ammo supplies?
Yeah, we had learning about ammunition and what it would do, and they put me in made me head of a motor pool.
Yeah, while you were in England, I know you were doing that in France, but were you doing that in England?
That was part of my job in England too. Motor pool, small one, like 5 or 6 trucks or something. When I got to France, 105 trucks.
So were you had to maintain them and make sure like they were running and
You know, send them out every day. They go out, take soldiers, pick up supplies, kept them busy, and used to be about 8 or 10 men just to fix flat tires over in France, because they would pick up shrapnel, and man, that shrapnel was terrible. And these great big tires. Ooh.
before we talk about France, I just want to talk a little bit more about. So you were in England when D-Day got launched, I guess. D-Day would have been like I guess June of '44.
Yeah, I was in England. Let me get this straight. Oh man. Yeah, this was right after D-Day when we landed in England. It was a day or two after D-Day. We had to sleep on the ground.
Wait, when you landed in France,
Huh?
like, did you go to France right after D-Day, or did you land in England?
Oh yeah, we went to France right after D-Day.
Well, that's what I mean. Is that what you're like days after D-Day you were going to France?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you arrive in France and you're sleeping outdoors and
Sleeping outdoors on the ground, and the ground would be shaking because bombs hitting the ground. You'd be surprised what you'd feel on the ground.
And how were you transported? I guess you had some amphibious boat or something took you from England to France.
England to France on a ship. You know, we was on a ship, believe it or not. From England to France is about 7 to 8 hours. I was on there 9 days
Really?
going from England to France.
Why? Because you were being cautious, or there?
That, and keep from running into a submarine. Although on the way over there, on this ship in June, day before D-Day, a German submarine was chasing us. This is a big ship. It was fast, and to show you or tell you how blacks were treated. You ever been in the hull of a ship?
Mm-hmm.
That's the very bottom. That's the part that's 6 feet under the base of the wall. That's where we had to sleep.
Wow.
Nothing but blacks. We didn't have blankets or nothing. Where I was in the hull, it was a hammock. I had 3 or 4 hammocks. By me being top sergeant, I had a hammock. And I was in that hammock. And the night of June the 6th, the announcement came over the loudspeaker. Submarine attack. Stay where you are. Submarine attack. Well, I'm in this hammock. I jumped out, stepped between the guy's arms and legs, getting out of there. We were about 6 floors down. I ran all the way up that floor, man. They heard all this shooting and going on outside. I tried to break through the door, and the guy stopped me. He said, "You can't come out here, can't come out." I said, "Well, let me out there, man. Maybe I can help." He said, "You can't come out here." Wouldn't let me out. I was going out there, maybe I could get me a gun, a machine gun or something, help him out. Young, crazy. I had no business up there. No, I should have stayed where I was. But they was dropping these, what do you call them? These tanks. The ship throws in the water for submarines.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's what they were shooting out there, and that's what I heard.
So you were on that boat for like 9 days or something?
That was a ship going over to England the first time. There was I understand there was about 15,000 of us on that ship. And my company was the only black company on the ship. Now, to give you a notice of, or whatever, of how they treated us as blacks, we did all the work in the kitchen, stuff like that. We served the officers. And something else I was going to say. But that's what we were on the ship for, going over.
Right. Well, when you went to... No, you were going to say something.
Well, despite the way we were treated, I knew I had a job to do, and I did what I was supposed to do. But to this day, I don't think we were treated right.
Yeah.
I knew it then. And I'm going to tell you this, as a black soldier, was in France, we had about 25 men, and I was on head of him at night. Orders would come in for ammunition. We had to ship out a whole lot of 90 millimeter ammunition. And we had these men, like I said, 25 or 30. It must have been about 25. No more than that. And these men, we got them from another company. And whenever we got orders for ammunition, they would go out with us. We had bulldozers there in case the truck couldn't get in. Bulldozer would make a road. I drove one of them. We had three of them. I drove one of them when I had to. And we needed them a lot of times because it was so muddy and everything. It was raining. It was muddy. And we had these guys from another company to load these ammunition on trucks so they could get it up front. And this officer told me it was raining this one night. It rained every night for 6 months. And muddy. Told me, you put about 25 men in a room half this size. It is noisy. And he didn't appreciate making all that noise. And he came up to me, and excuse me what I'm going to say. He said, Sergeant, I want you to put those men outside. They're making too much noise. Now it's raining out there and muddy. It's been like that for 2 or 3 months. Put these men out there. They're making too much noise. I said, well, you stupid SB. I called the officer that. He said, Sergeant, next time you call me a stupid SB, he said, say, sir. I said, sir, you stupid SB. And that was the last of that. The men stayed inside. They didn't go outside. And he didn't tell me to put them outside no more. I knew I was going to be court-martialed then after I called him. But it didn't go out of that room. That's the last I heard of it.
So you, did you feel like when you got into France there might be an opportunity that you guys might be able to fight or anything? Did you ever think that was a possibility?
Yeah. We thought we were trained to do that. But it never happened. But at one time during the war, it was December 45. They needed help up front, and they were anticipating calling some of us up to help them out. I got this information from my captain, and he said they wanted us to send some of the top men in the organization, send them up to Belgium, France, and report to the officer up there. He said, but I'm not sending you guys up there. He said, y'all are going to stay here with me. But that's the only time I know that they wanted us up there was in December of 45.
Was that for like the Battle of the Bulge?
Yeah,
probably?
right. Battle of the Bulge, yeah. But no, he didn't send none of us. He said, I ain't sending none of my top men up there.
So you guys stayed in France, and what were some of the stuff that you guys were assigned to do? Your unit, company, and stuff.
Well, let's see, what did we do? We didn't do much of anything, really.
I think you said you were in charge of the motor pool at one point.
Yeah, I was in the old day. I had the motor pool. I'm trying to figure out. There was, oh man, I'm telling you, I can't. So much is happening. I used to go out every morning. I don't know whether it was to clean up, to get all the ammunition that was on the ground and ship it back to England or what. There was a whole lot of that to do. And man, I wished I had somebody around here could help me with this.
That's all right. Or with the motor pool, were you doing like same thing you were doing in England? I guess you were keeping maintenance on the vehicles and that were being used and keeping track of all that.
Yeah, well, we used most of the 2.5 ton trucks doing something. I'm trying to figure out when. Well, that was the first part of the war in England.
Well, I was just wondering how the roads were like in France.
The roads were narrow.
Were there much damage with combat battles and stuff? Was there?
It was surprising. We had some people in our military that they never give them credit. The engineers. the engineers, they need to get more credit for being over there than they're getting. Because they tear up a road today, tomorrow they have that road fixed. Yeah, they could build a road in half a day. Build a bridge across the river, and they were good. You know, like they knock a bridge out.
Right.
Oh man, the engineers get in there. They have you a bridge across there in no time. Yeah, there's a good, great bunch of guys.
Did you interact much with the French people, like in villages or anything like that?
I had some of them driving my trucks. I teach them how to drive trucks, but one of them, his wife was a dancer at, what's the name of that group of people in Paris? His wife was a dancer. I can't think of,
Like the Can
not the Folies Bergère or something.
Right. Like the Can Club.
Yeah,
Do that.
she was a dancer, and he wrote her name down and everything, and told me to go around there and see her, but I never did get to do it 'cause when I went to Paris.
So how was it? You did go to Paris?
Oh yeah.
How did you feel like you were treated there?
Good. Oh, real good. Yeah.
I talked to some other African Americans who were in World War II. It seems like some of those guys, like they actually stayed on in Europe because they just felt
Yeah,
they treated better.
yeah, they did.
Like in Italy, this one guy I know, he had an Italian girlfriend, and he lived there for a couple of years in Italy after the war.
Yeah.
Before he came back to the
Yeah,
States.
a lot of them stayed over there. Yeah.
So you were there when the war ended. I mean, do you remember hearing the news when Hitler committed suicide and all that? You were probably still in France.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was still over there.
Did you think you were going to be heading back to the States after that? You heard that news?
Yeah. I thought it would be sooner than what it was, but they kept us over there for quite a while after the war. In fact, I didn't get home till January '46. I thought I'd be home before that. Well, to tell you the truth, they said when I was being discharged, they said, well, I would be home for Christmas. I missed Christmas and missed New Year's. Oh boy.
So when you eventually did get back to the States, did you know what you wanted to do?
I had no idea, because the plant I worked with, Wright's Aeronautical, they were out of business
Because the war was over.
because the war was over. I didn't know where I was going. Now, I was a professional butcher, because in a packing house, I have killed hogs. I gave that to him. After 2 weeks of that, I said, here, you're going to have to get somebody to kill these hogs. I couldn't stand that. Walk in blood that's deep, just like Jello. Yeah, but I could cut a whole hog up, buddy. They wanted to make me a chef over in the military. I can't cook. I can't even boil water.
So what did you end up doing?
Just what I was trying to tell you. After training these soldiers in basic training, I'm ahead of the what you got. See, I forgot it. I was head of a motor pool.
Yeah.
So that's about it.
So,
But I had the best people driving my trucks. They were good. I had an interpreter.
All right.
I didn't tell you that, did I?
No, no.
That's the reason why I had Europeans driving my trucks. I had an interpreter. Like a Frenchman would come to me and I said, what did he say? He would tell me what he said. German. I had a few Germans driving my trucks. And Russians. They had a stockade across from my motor pool, the Russians did. I don't know how they got it. And they fell in love with me. They forced me to go over there with them one day. Come on, Sergeant, come on. They took me over there and gave me something to eat. I don't know how they got all that food, man.
Uh-huh.
And I laid down to rest. I fell asleep.
Yes,
And they
you
woke
did.
me up. It was dark.
Yes,
They could have killed me while I was over there.
You know, I wasn't here.
For the Russians, they were our allies at that point.
Yeah, but
Something.
but they loved me. I treated them right, you know.
I don't know.
Be hollering at them and going on like.
You know, that was.
If I could get in touch with this guy, one soldier remembers me. If I could get in touch with him, he would tell you, he said,
Probably.
everybody wanted to be under Sergeant Titus because he never hollered at you. All he had to do was look at it, look your way and roll his eyes and turn around. He said, we knew we were in trouble if we didn't do what he's supposed us to do. He said, we really appreciated that.
Well, obviously, you had a lot of good leadership qualities. Were you able to do something with that when you went back to being a civilian?
No. None of that helped me here.
Okay, then we'll call back Monday.
I wish it had helped me, but it didn't. Let's see, what did I do? Where we lived upstairs. The fellow below us worked in a Lincoln Mercury dealership. It's just a block down the street from where we were living.
In St. Bernard?
This was in O'Brienville.
O'Brienville.
Used to be a Lincoln Mercury dealer, Johnny Dell Motors. And he told me, he said, come with me, I'm going to introduce you to my boss. He said, maybe he'll give you a job. Sure enough, he hired me. I was only about a half a block away from work, man. Yeah, so he hired me. I worked there. And this general manager, he didn't like me because I didn't like the way he treated the men, you know. And he knew that because he tried it on me and it didn't work. Hollering at me. I came in there. I used to drive this motorcycle, three-wheel motorcycle. You don't see them anymore.
Yeah, but I see them in movies.
Yeah. I used to drive one of those, you know, go pick up cars or deliver cars. And I would come in and park the motorcycle. Now he's got about 12 other men around there working like me. Instead of having them, like, he was fanatic about cleanliness. He didn't allow an oil spot on the. Well, we painted some parking spaces, and he didn't like no oil to be on there. Hey, come and wipe this off. And I went in there one day, came back off of a trip. Titus, come in and get this oil spout up. Now he's got all these other men around there, been around there doing nothing. And I just came in from delivering a car. Ooh, he made me so mad. Well, my military training came out on me. I went over and up against the wall, they used to have some where they heated. Heat came from these pipes. And I saw this 2x4. I jumped up there and I grabbed that 2x4, tore it off the wall. And the one old mechanic, he said, Pete, don't do it, Pete. He grabbed me, he said, don't do it. He said, I know what you're going through. He said, leave it alone, leave it alone. I was going over there and kill that man with that tube before. That's how bad it was. And it's a good thing he stopped me. Because with all the reason why I did this, like I say, he's got all these other men around there doing nothing. And as soon as I come in from delivering a car or something, he wants me to do it. He didn't have none of them delivering cars. It was me, or to go after parts and stuff. But
Did you stay with them, or did you stay in the working with cars?
you know, something happened. He fired one of the old timers, and he had me fixing coffee for the guy, the mechanics and them. And I fixed some coffee. I had this little room, but just adjacent to the locker room. And I was fixing some coffee for two of the ladies in the office, and there was about 12 of us there, and they were all going up in the locker room. What's going on, you know? Well, he had fired one of the old timers, and they objected to it. They were all up there in the locker room, so I'm still don't know what's going on till I get up there, and I sit down. I'm the first one he sees when he comes in the door. We didn't like me no, because, like I said, I didn't like the way he hollered at men, you know. And I'm the first one he sees, and he fires me. Yeah, I'm the only one he fired. This was on Saturday. That was the end of that. I went back in there Monday, and that's when he told me I was fired. Well, I put my jacket, I had my jacket on. I had it on the left arm. I put it over here on my right arm, keep from hitting him. And Monday I went down, filed for unemployment. They wouldn't give it to me because I was fired for disciplinary reasons. So I had to do something. I forget what it was. And he had to report down there. I didn't know they could do that. They subpoenaed him. And he had to come down there and plead his case so I could get my unemployment or not, you know. And he came down there and he backed down. They got him. And, you know, they found out he was wrong. And I got my unemployment 26 weeks. And it turned out to be over 100 weeks. I don't know whether you remember those times or not. Something happens, the president kept adding to it because of something. And instead of me getting unemployment for, like I say, for 36 weeks or whatever it was, man, it went up over 100 weeks, which, I mean, I didn't mind till I got a job. But what happened when one of the guys in the tool room, he knew I was a good worker, and he had left and went across the river for Lincoln Mercury dealership, and he found out I was retired, and he called me up and told me, Pete, you come over here. He said, we got an opening for somebody over here. He said, and I recommended you. I said, Harry, I'll be right over. And so they gave me a job across the river, Newport. And like I say, that guy knew I was a good worker and everything. He knew how I was treated. I stayed over there till 1950, And I got a letter from the post office. They wanted to hire me. So I went in the post office in 1950. That's how I got in there.
Oh, is that what you ended up doing long term?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 1950.
Did you ever know a guy named Ed Conley?
Conlon.
Ed Conley. He was a
Did
postman.
he live in Kentucky?
He was from Covington, Kentucky.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Is he still living?
He passed away about 2 years ago.
Oh, I'm
He
sorry.
was a musician too,
Yeah, uh-huh.
but he was a postman.
Right. Yeah, I knew him. I didn't see him that often, but
Yeah.
I remember it.
Well, I only got like a couple minutes left, but so you ended up working for the post office for how long? For 30?
24 years.
Then you retired?
Yeah, retired. I hurt my back, and they let me out on disability. So I've been out on disability since 1974. Been a long time.
So you just been taking it easy ever since?
That's all I can do. I really have a bad back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In fact, I took a pain pill before you came. Yeah.
Well, anyways, I'm just about out of time, but I want to say thank you very much for sharing your memories.
It's been my pleasure. I wish I could remember more things that had happened, but
Yeah, you remember. It was great.
at my age, 97, I want to say things, but it won't come out because it's frustrating. But
Well, I think you did a great job. Thank you so much.
thank you.